What up? What up? What up? Welcome to Shawn and Maya in the morning on this Hump Day edition. Man, I am telling you, it is a wonderful, beautiful day out here in Chicago, in the Chicagoland area. Man, it's raining, but I like it raining. Nice. It's a great day to have some good stuff going on in the house. You could binge watching some movies, or you know what? Listen to Shawn and Maya in the morning. Guys, I'm your boy, the Superback Shawn Sierra. We appreciate you tuning in. As you see her in her glory, look at her, the one and only, my co-host, the co-pilot in this insanity, Maya Kai. What up, Maya?
Happy Hump Day, everybody. Yes,
Okay.
She appears.
Mike.
Dude, that is still one of my favorite commercials, like right to this day. Yes, it seems like we're coasting through June, and we're getting a little closer to what we hope is going to be some start dates for sports, but yet we're still on the hump with a lot of stuff.
Pun intended.
No pun intended. I swear, no pun intended.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Like I said, if you're watching this on Facebook Live, well, then I guess you found us on Facebook. Now you can also tweet the show. You can tweet us at SM_mornings or tweet us at SportsZone Shy, at SportsZone Shy. That's CHI. Now, if you want to follow me, just me personally online, want to know what I did?
What'd you do?
Let me tell you what I did. Want to know what I did?
What did you do?
Let me tell you what I did. I mean, it's nice and easy for you folks. Nice and easy. One handle for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, the Snapper, all one handle at the Shawn Sierra. Maya, where can everybody find you?
Well, of course, because I like to be forward thinking and savvy. You can always find me on Facebook and Twitter at the Sports Chica, on the page right there, or Instagram Maya_Akai. That's how you can find me on social media.
Oh, you have Maya_Akai?
Yeah, I switched it up, because I'm being multifaceted now, and so I kind of had to change a couple things up to make it all come together. So
okay, I got to remember that.
I'm fancy, huh? I'm fancy. No.
You're fancy, huh? Hair done, nail done. I
don't know about all that. I haven't quarantine caught up with all that yet. As you can see, hair not done. Anyways.
Oh, that's good. Okay, I got to remember that. And when days you're not on, I can't tell you just followed you on IG at
right.
Maya Akai. So Maya _Akai.
_Akai, yes.
Okay.
Just on Instagram.
If they do it just for the gram, then yes.
Yes, you do, just for the gram, yes.
Hey guys, we got a great show for you, but we need you to get interactive with us today. So here's what I need you to do. All right, I need you to leave a question or comment right here on the post, and guess what? It'll come right up on the screen. That's how crazy we are.
Yes.
That's how crazy we be acting.
Get your people integrated into the show. Your comments, yes.
Yes, we want. We want to have you a little more part of our show. So again, make sure you leave a question or comment right there on the page, and it'll come up, and we'll incorporate that somewhere throughout the show. Now, okay, we would be remiss, Maya, if we didn't introduce our man, the Puerto Rican Swiss Army knife himself, Ivan Vargas. Ivan, what's up, Papa? How are you?
What's up, guys? Good morning.
Mon capitan.
I got this beard going. I'm kind of pissed. I need a shave.
Hey, you're still rocking your quarantine look. You just can't let it go.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I don't look as good as Shawn with the goatee, but it's like it's a little scratchy.
You know what? Let me tell you something. I hate this thing. I hate it. Hated it. I hate this thing. Okay. And so many people are like, oh my God, it looks so good. You look so distinguished. I'm like, oh, so old. Like, no, distinguished. I'm like, old. No, distinguished. I'm like, old. And I've got more compliments on this stupid thing. And people are like, no, don't take it off. Don't take it off. Keep it. So I was supposed to shave it last week. And then two of my friends were like, no, dude, you got to keep it. Or two female friends were like, yeah, it looks good. You look really, really.
See, that's what swayed you. That's what swayed you. That's what got you. So
yes.
Your two female friends, you're like, oh man, for real?
Yes.
Really good?
But I think this might be the last week, and maybe we'll grow it maybe another month or two. But yeah, I swear I just want to pull it out. Oh, it's ridiculous. But anyway.
But yet here it still is.
Anyway. Yes, it's the power of persuasion. It all depends on all depends on who likes it.
Exactly. So there you have it.
Oh, well, listen, guys. Again, we got a great show for you, and you know how we do. The first segment of every show that we have is called Top of the Morning to you, and these are the hot topics of the night before, or just some sports in general. And boy, oh boy, do we have some doozies, man. Which way do we go? I know which way we go. There's so much going on in the world of sports for us. Here we go. this is bothering me, Maya. You see my hat. You see the hat I'm wearing. You know, me and you, Southside, we're White Sox fans through and through. Baseball seems unlikely to start their season very soon after the latest Major League Baseball, the owner's proposal to the MLBPA, to the Players Association. That's going to be voted on today, and most likely that is not going to pass. You know, I'm tired of this situation. We're in the middle of what should be baseball season, and we're not having baseball. And they keep hearing, oh, we want more money. No, they want less money. We don't want to pay that much money. Okay, the Major League Players Association, they're going to propose an 89-game schedule. Okay, first there was an 80-game schedule, then the players formed a counter-proposed 114-game schedule. Then the owners said, well, what about a 50-game schedule? So now they're going back and forth. You know, like George Costanza said, negotiation. Okay, but the longer it negotiates, the more this goes on, the more pain in the butt it's going to be. And the biggest deal is it would bring it size closer, but it's 25 fewer games than the union wanted initially. So the biggest thing, as we know, Maya, is money. They're talking about money. Players want their prorated salaries, and owners want to give them a piece of the pie, but they just won't tell them how big the pie is.
And it's frustrating for us because we're the fans. We just want baseball back. But unfortunately, This isn't just about semantics. This is about money, because at the end of the day, this is a business. So as much as it's annoying and I want to get back to the business of baseball is about dollars. Holla. But no, seriously. So even though this is annoying to me, I understand why we are still in this situation that they haven't decided. It's unfortunate, though, as they were working through this, as we were kind of sitting on that time when they couldn't meet because of obviously the stay-at-home orders with quarantine, that this stuff wasn't being worked out earlier so that when the season could open, they'd be ready to go. So to me, I'm going to put failure on both sides of the MLB and the MLBPA for not being proactive and being ready for the day. They said, okay, go, baseball season can start, that they weren't ready to start because this stuff should have been haggled. They could have been haggling in May, you know what I'm saying? April and May to be ready for July. So that's the part as a fan that annoys me, is that they didn't properly prepare for this situation that everybody knew was going to probably be an issue.
Once spring training got canceled, oh, I see your cat lover mug.
In celebration, I am officially a cat grandma of twins. Anyways, yes, twins. Go figure. A litter of two. Anyways.
Once the pandemic shut down spring training, that should have started right then and there. Because at that point, you don't know how long the pandemic was going to last, or the situation was going to last. But you knew it was bad enough to the point that they canceled the remainder of spring training. So once that happened, what needed to happen was they needed to get in the room at that particular point immediately and say, hey, listen, we don't know how long it's going to last, but whenever it's over and things open up, we want baseball to start immediately. And they didn't. And you're right. Blame goes on both sides of this. And, millionaires arguing versus billionaires. I mean, I don't feel sorry for either of them. I just feel sorry for us because we don't get to see baseball. I'm tired of the Korean Baseball League. And I want to see Mike Trout. I want to see my White Sox and all the stud young athletes they have coming up. And it was a big season for us. It was a lot of expectations for the White Sox this year. Not necessarily to win the World Series or make a deep playoff run, but to make some improvements, a marked improvement, and possibly make a run at the playoffs. And what we get shortchanged again. But it actually might turn out better for us once the season does finally start, whenever they can get it ready. One of the White Sox legends says that, and his name is Mr. Home Run himself in the World Series, Paul Konerko. He said that the White Sox may be built for a short season. So we'll see. Hopefully,
yeah. That's one thing that's been speculated, that a short season for the White Sox could be fantastic, but of course, it'd be a season with an asterisk next to it. I'm gonna take it. Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm taking it. Don't hate, but yes, no, I'm gonna take it. But the other thing that people discuss right now, people are clamoring for sports, and we're gonna have sports overload, because if the NBA is able to get things back up and going, and at the same time, if baseball's going and then hockey has playoffs, it's gonna be so much to watch that people are gonna be vying for okay, what am I going to watch? What am I going to watch? You know what I'm saying? So they had the advantage of trying to get started and get the ball rolling, and yet they're still haggling and haven't, hammered out the details. Like I said, I'm not angry about the fact that they haven't figured this out, but they had time. It's a legitimate issue to have, but they had more than enough time during quarantine to figure this situation out when the season resumes. Are we just doing a prorated, kind of pay by game kind of situation? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just unfortunate that fans have to suffer because of the fact that, like you said, billionaires and millionaires didn't bother to hammer out the details that they had time to hammer out.
Well, the next top of the morning topic kind of piggybacks what you talked about, and that's sports overload. The MLS Soccer League is back, baby, starting July 8th. MLS is going to have a tournament, MLS is back tournament. And so now we're going to have soccer. So here's what you talked about, that sports overload. So now once baseball season starts, that's going to go into November. Now basketball season, that's going to go into June or July or maybe even August. Okay, and then football season is going to kick off in July with training camps and things like that. And then MLS is starting, and so we're going to have baseball overload. I mean, sports overload, which is not bad because you know what? Let's be real, Maya. Come June, July until football season kicks off, it's pretty much a dead period because the NBA is over, the NHL is over, everything's over. There's about a month span, 3 week to 4 week span of just like, all right, come on, football, come on. Training camps kick in, training camps kick in. Now you're not gonna have that dead period. We already had it, during the pandemic, and now like MLS is starting up. We're gonna have the hockey playoffs. We're gonna have basketball playoffs. When baseball, hopefully, once they get started, and MLS. So we're gonna have a whole bunch of stuff to watch during the summer.
It is, but at the same time, because football training camps are going to be closed to the public, for them, it kind of helps that there's other things for people to focus on. So now the kind of coverage that they have to have won't be as nearly as intensive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's not fan base. It's going to be the media is going to have to give you your outlet to know what's going on with your team. Okay, I'm just going to flat out say this.
Do it.
I don't watch MLS. Matter of fact, isn't that what you call a real estate listing? I'm just kidding. But I will say this. Had MLS found a way to come back in the drought, I probably would have watched it. And to be honest, it's unfortunate they couldn't control this. They might have captured a whole nother fan base because people were looking for something to watch. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
If they could have played during that time frame, it was highly possible they could have grabbed a whole new fan base. But I'll be honest, I don't lie about this. I'm not necessarily a soccer person. Never have been. Not say I won't be. For me, it's going to have to be how I got into hockey. Like more than, Jesus, I can't remember how many years ago it was. I actually went to a Blackhawks game, like to a game. And by the way, it was like real plush seats too. It was real nice. And fell in love. I knew about hockey. I remember the whole miracle game from the Olympics, all that stuff. But attending the hockey game, for me, the intensity totally made me a fan. At that point, I was like, okay, this is fantastic. I love the energy. And then I learned about the game, and I've been a hockey fan ever since then. For me, soccer has to be the same way. And I'm going to flat out say it. It's not going to be the MLS here because to me, I think all the action's happening across the pond. Because when I watch what happens like with the English Premier League and other stuff, they are nuts crazy, and that's my kind of get down. I'm just saying. So with that kind of saying, I need to be in the nuts crazy environment. My goal is to go to a game abroad. I want to have the experience that way. Not that I won't support the Chicago Fire, but this doesn't do the same thing for me. And their logo sucks, by the way, now. But it's horrible. So I feel like once I go to an MLS game that's abroad, I'm going to be more into it. So yay, for everyone who loves soccer, it's coming back. And you guys don't have to haggle about it. I'm happy for you. Nothing for me.
I still need to go to a Fire game. I haven't ever been to a Fire game or Chicago State game for back in the day. Remember the Sting?
Sting? Great logo, by the way. I've actually, it's sad, never been to a Fire game, but I've been to the stadium for an event like 2 different times. Very nice stadium that they have. I know they changed the name a couple times. So I'm not even sure.
It's SeatGeek Stadium now, but they just moved this year. They're moving back to Soldier Field. So
really?
Yeah. So they're moving back to Soldier Field starting this season. So apparently, I don't know. You weren't filling up SeatGeek Stadium. You're definitely not going to fill up Soldier Field. But they wanted, I don't know what the thought process was. They wanted to be in Chicago. I don't know. But I think it was a bad move. I think SeatGeek Stadium, it was a lot easier to get to. The parking was so much easier, and because it was such a smaller and more intimate venue, it got really crowded, and you weren't having, you didn't need 60,000 people to make it look crowded. You're talking 20, 30,000 people.
But it was actually a nice venue too. It was a really nice venue for a smaller, stadium for sports. No, it was nice. Okay, well, like I said, if you're not, that's indicative. They're not moving from, what was it, Toyota Park to whatever it is now at SeatGeek Stadium. They're not moving from there, obviously, because, well, okay, it could be the opposite. Maybe they just have so many fans in Soldier Field, and or the idea of having to get back into the city itself, where probably a lot of your fan base is located, is the reason they wanted to make that move.
Yeah, whatever it is, I think it's a bad move, but
I was just gonna say I think I agree with Maya because like honestly, Bridgeport, the stadium's nice and everything.
Bridgeview.
Travel to Bridgeport.
Bridgeview,
Bridgeport, somewhere around there.
Oh, big difference.
I don't know that south side area.
Whoa, big difference. Yeah,
I don't know that south side area. But either way, you have to travel a distance to go watch, to watch a game. And that's difficult for you, especially if you're coming from the city to go down. Then like that area, that turn right there. It's like there's traffic all the time.
But it's about convenience. Like I feel the same way about the Chicago Sky.
Yeah.
If you bring them back into the city, I feel like you get more people. But they're so far out. What was it, Allstate Arena, where they played?
Yeah.
It's just such a trek to get to the games. So to me, bringing them into, weren't they supposed to switch? Wintrust, right? Yeah. To me, I would like to think that would have an increase in the amount of games because now it's transportation accessible for a lot of people to get down there. So I would expect you probably would see with an improved team that you may see more fan participation even for the Sky. So I think the same thing would be there for the Fire.
Yeah, it also has a lot more things to do around the arena as well. Like if you come downtown, for the Sky or for the Chicago Fire, you can go to a restaurant downtown. You can go to a bar. There's a lot of local places around there and then walk over to the game. Over in Bridgeview, you're not walking. There's not a lot. It's residential. It's residential and industrial. So you're literally across the street from an industrial area, and then you're just north of a residential area. So and then they have a small bar literally right on the corner of 71st and Harlem, and that can't accommodate any decent fan base that goes in there. So there's definitely a lot more to do, extracurricular activities when you're coming back into the city. Like you talked about the Sky. Man, that whole South Loop area has changed big time.
Oh, that area where the Wintrust Arena is a nice little area. There's a rooftop there. Is it the View?
Across the street, VU, yeah, the VU on
VU is there. Really nice. So it's a lot in that area that, like I said, and it's transportation friendly.
Restaurants as well, right there in Cermak, and a lounge on Cermak, and another venue on Michigan Avenue. Yeah.
So I think that's a smart move for them. I think they were really just too far away for a lot of people.
Yeah, a sport that doesn't have a lot of traction yet in the city, to have them not in the city really did them damage. So having them in the city, literally in the heart of one of the newest and most up and coming neighborhoods, that's definitely a good move. Well, the next top of the morning topic, how about this one? MJ is still the GOAT, baby. Michael Jordan. Well, we knew Michael Jordan's a GOAT. That was never in question. But Michael Jordan hauls in a 442-pound marlin in a fishing tournament the other day in North Carolina. Unbelievable. So far, this is the fifth biggest fish, but Michael Jordan, I guess that's what they do out in North Carolina. They like to fish, and Michael Jordan's a big fishing enthusiast. And him and his crew, 442-pound marlin. They were taking pictures with it, and with cigar. Mike's got to have a cigar at all times. He got to have a stogie. And it was. I thought that was insane. 442 pounds.
That's a person. A big person. Well, depends on what we're talking here. It's a person, or it's a couple people put together. So obviously, he had to have a bunch of people bring it in. You know what? It was all about the marlin. Was like, hey, Mike, write a love letter to me. How about that? Write a love letter to me.
That's messed up.
That's hilarious.
Ode to the 442 Marlin, the love letter from Michael Jordan to his Marlin. It's so funny how Mike is just, you know what? This version of Michael Jordan in the news, I really enjoy.
Yes.
Because he, after The Last Dance, which I'm probably the last person on earth not to see it yet. But But no. I wanted it to be over. I wanted the hype to fade down so I could just watch it. Because when people kept hyping stuff up, I don't like that. Because then I might be disappointed and I get aggravated. But I heard it across the board. So I got to stretch of time here that I'm off, and I'm going to actually watch it. But
binge watch it?
I'm going to binge watch it because that's what I like to do. Netflix has ruined me. I can't seem to wait for things to come out weekly now. I'm like, I need to watch it all now, like right now. So I've got like, a Netflix addiction now. But what I like about, okay, you see that version of Michael Jordan, which I think we always kind of know that he kind of had an asshole kind of reputation, to be honest. Yep. But we also felt like he was a competitor. And with that comes that kind of elusive and, kind of narcissistic to a degree personality. But what I think people haven't realized, if you've been paying attention for like the last 10 years, Michael Jordan has really, to me, matured into a much different and open person. I think we saw it from the Hall of Fame piece is when you really got to see it. Him being vulnerable and crying and just people always thought Michael Jordan never did anything socially oriented. He's been doing social things forever, especially, I think we maybe feel a little slighted in Chicago because of the time he felt here, and we don't maybe receive a lot of the things that he does from his philanthropic, kind of actions, but he's done a lot from where he's from in North Carolina, but he does do things in Chicago as well. Like when he won that lawsuit, I think it was against Dominic's. Yep. He pretty much left that money in Chicago and broke it up among different organizations. So now he's become more vocal. Like he wasn't talking about social issues when he was really a player, but now I think he's in a comfortable place in his life and he feels like I can be more open. So, to me,
billionaire, what you going to say to me?
Okay. Not that I think, I don't know that, here's the thing. He probably truly cared what people thought about him, but he was smart enough not to let people know that he cared. You know what I mean? Yeah. So now I think he's still that way, but I think he's okay with showing his softer side, so to speak.
Oh, billionaire fool! What do you?
But let's be honest. Are we going to really disrespect Michael Jordan? I mean, because he'll probably tell you something like, "What?" I mean, he's not shy.
He's like me. So I don't understand language of people with short money.
So, but it's just this to me just wraps into the fun Michael Jordan story, seeing like this whole different kind of version of him.
It really does, Maya. Because you talked about the serious, the competitor. We loved it, but now we see Michael being human. Wait till he has like a grandbaby. How much we love Ozzie Guillen. Now that he has Junior has a daughter and a son now. Junior his wife had a baby boy, and you see how Grandpa Guillen is. Dude, Ozzie Guillen is everybody loves him, like him being a grandpa. And imagine when Michael has his first grandbaby. Holy cow.
Well, to be honest, Mike is still raising kids. He had twins, correct?
Yes, he had twins with the Cuban lady.
His current wife. So, he's about grandkids. He's going to be raising kids to the day he died. Seriously. Because they got to be like, what, 3, maybe or 4 now, give or take?
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Somewhere in there. Yeah. So, about grandkids. But again, he keeps that part of his life so personal.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen a single picture of his kids. I know what his wife looks like, but I've never seen one single picture of his kids.
Why do you think that is though? Like why? Because his other 3 kids, like they seem to have more exposure to
as adults.
As adults, somewhat as kids.
Like, it was real, but it wasn't a lot as kids either. He didn't put his kids out there too much when he was
right.
His kids got hype when they ended up going to Whitney Young and playing basketball. That's really when you first got they were kind of thrust into the spotlight, and Mike had to come out of his shell because Mike was Mike, but he was a dad too. And so, he was actually a lot of many of the Whitney Young games, and, being a dad, it was tough for him at times, being who he was, but at that point he was just a dad. And that was the first time that his kids ever really got any spotlight put on him.
And you know what? And that sucked to be them, because when your dad is Michael Jordan, there's this expectation you're going to be like this amazing not just athlete, the basketball player. And you hear about that even I think LeBron James does a great job with his son, who is actually a very good basketball player. And I want to say D Wade's son is actually really good like that too. Yeah. I think they've done a great job of being able to be superstars, but still interact with their kids and still be present. And we've seen a couple different athletes. Shaquille is like that. O'Neal managed to find a way to navigate those waters. But I think it's different because Michael Jordan's celebrity when he was playing is different than everybody I just named. He was like on the mountaintop really all by himself, and it was like glory be to Michael Jordan. Whereas nowadays we have so many different types of superstars, so to speak. It's probably a little bit easier to navigate those waters. Of course, in social media and how celebrities have integrated their kids into their lives, you know what I mean? So he wasn't really doing social media. He was writing 20-page love letters. That's amazing. When a man writes a 20-page love letter to you, that says a lot. I'm
You know, it does.
Amy Hunter. I'm like so jealous because that's like some good stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't a quick text.
No, but imagine if it
I
had
love
been.
you, girl. I love you.
If it had been, she would have missed out on how he would have expressed himself.
Yeah, you know what? And we didn't get to talk about that with you the last time because we did mention it. You know, and your thoughts on it because it's thank God social media wasn't around back then because had that gotten out back then, man, it would have been plastered all over. And,
I still question though how the letter got out of her possession, assuming it was ever in his. Assuming it was ever in her possession, to then be able to make it to auction. It is what it is. But I guess the only part that I feel a little bad about, I mean, there's no secret that Michael, and I say this, I'm not going to say that he didn't love Juanita. I don't think he was in love with Juanita. No. It was a circumstance. Everyone knew that she got pregnant and he was doing what people did back then. Now people get knocked up and be like, you just knocked up, I'll pay you. But back then with his image, we all know why he did it. I feel bad for her because now she has to constantly keep being reminded about that. And then he wrote a 20-page love letter to somebody and you probably didn't get nothing looking like that. I might be in my feelings right now if I'm Juanita Jordan, just a bit. I mean, the paycheck was hefty. Don't get me wrong, but you still have a matter of pride. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To be like, you wrote a flipping 20-page love letter to somebody else. Don't get me wrong, but you know what? Amy Hunter was a good look. She was pretty. So I'll be honest. She might have outdid the wife. Real talk. If you want to be happy the rest of your life, you never make a pretty woman your wife. Isn't that what they say? It's an old song. You probably don't know that song. It's an old song. So I just kind of feel bad for his kids, even because the fact that his parents, that part of their life is now being exposed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And if you saw your dad a certain way, you're now finding out dirt, unless he's ever sat down and had a conversation with him about it. Like, look, let me just lay this on the table so you don't ever have to be surprised. But he doesn't strike me like he's that emotionally open at this point. So I just kind of feel bad for the family fallout, probably more so than the letter itself.
Yeah, it's first of all, I didn't understand why it came up, why they started talking about it again. And it does, and it paints a bad picture because now you got a guy who's married, who just had a kid. It was insinuated right after because he talked about his son being born, and now he's writing love letters, or he was writing love letters to someone else. It's just a bad look, and at this stage of his life, fine, not a lot of people, people realize that that's what happened a lot with athletes, but that was Mike, and Mike was a little different. But
obviously, it sounds like from the letter there was a active relationship with her, probably while he was also talking to Juanita. That's what I gathered from the letter, because he spoke to her like he really cared about her, but given his circumstance, he couldn't do it. Which actually, to be honest, this is a kind of a looking in the lens of what kind of person Michael Jordan was. The fact he could have just blown her off and be like, shit happens, that's my life, and you had it good while I was there. But he actually took the time to sit down and put his emotions on paper, which to me, again, that's a snapshot of him that we knew nothing about. So I just feel bad for the family that it comes out after the fact. I don't look at him any different because I think it was based on a situation, and he was in the letter, he was letting it go like, look, we can't do this because of this, but yet I still cared about you. I'm not exactly sure what you say in 20 pages though. I'm saying. I'm like, wow. I mean, what were you recalling? Did you go back to birth? I mean,
maybe it was 20 pages of notebook like this or something.
When a man loves a woman, did he write a narrative out and about the responsibilities? I mean, I want to know what was actually in the damn letter for 20 pages. That's a lot.
You got to think, as competitive as Michael Jordan was, on the court, in life, he had to have been competitive at home with his kids. He had to have been competitive with, somewhat with this woman. Michael Jordan, and like you were saying, Maya, breaking down in detail,
right?
With a fine-tooth comb, was picking out every single detail about why this shouldn't be, or what have yous in the letter. But that's Michael. I mean, why wouldn't he?
But you know what? Again, the greatest of all time, writing love letters. See what I mean? So just like that. Doesn't stop there. Michael keeps continually to amaze us all the time with stuff he does. So you know what? Hey. But yeah, that was my thought on that.
Well, listen, we got to take a quick break, and on the other side of the break, guys, we have more top of the morning topics. So don't go anywhere, folks. Keep it locked right here. Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago.
Quicken Loan Sports presents the Sports Flash, driven by Jeep on 1330 and 95.9 The Zone. The Cubs' Anthony Rizzo used the COVID quarantine to get in shape. He's down 25 pounds from a season ago and expects to head into training camp right around 2:15. The Major League Baseball Players Association have until today to make a counteroffer to the league, which has proposed a 76-game season and 75% prorated salaries. Multiple reports say players have responded last night adamant that they receive full prorated salaries while offering to cut the regular season to 89. ESPN's Jeff Passan on what he's heard.
It's been interesting to watch the evolution of where the players have been and where they've gotten to. I was talking with one player earlier today who was sort of on the fence about this idea of them trying to recoup that full prorated salary. The players have coalesced, and it seems like the union is as strong as it has been in potentially decades.
No monthly payments for 90 days, 0% APR for 84 months. Details at Jeep.com. The Sports Flash is driven by Jeep. Chuck Sanders, 1330, 95.9 The Zone.
We're here to tell you about Boost Mobile's new upgraded network.
That's right. Stronger signal, faster speeds, and more coverage.
So now you can get everything you want faster, like People's music.
No, the new upgraded network means you can download music faster than ever before. It doesn't mean that it will make Pitbull songs faster.
Oh, so this isn't the song.
No, this is the song.
Well, this is embarrassing.
Step up with Boost Mobile's new upgraded network. Stronger signal, faster speeds, more coverage than before. Switch and get 4 unlimited lines for $25 per line per month and 4 free LG K51 phones. Access to upgraded network requires compatible device. New customers only. 4-line offer requires at least 1 port and activation from eligible carrier. Free phone limited to 1 per line while supplies last. Customers using more than 35 gigabytes of data during billing cycle may be deprioritized during times of congestion. Offers and coverage are available everywhere. Additional terms and restrictions apply. See boostmobile.com or retailer for full details.
All this nuance is justice. Oh, it's nice to see some people change their mind. The head of the NFL said, yeah, maybe we was wrong. The football players, maybe they did have the right to peacefully protest. Well, don't apologize. Give Colin Kaepernick a job.
Welcome back to Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone. Oh, here we go. Welcome back to Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago. That, people, was a clip of Al Sharpton at the George Floyd memorial for a funeral yesterday, talking about the NFL, his stance on the NFL, and what they're denouncing racism, and they should have listened to the players and the peaceful protest, but they didn't say, oh, we apologize to Colin Kaepernick. That wasn't coming anytime soon. But that was pretty interesting yesterday, how Al Sharpton took that time to talk about giving Colin a job, and because we all know he's been blackballed. That was just a really a jacked up situation. And what do you think, Maya? Do you think that the NFL owes Colin Kaepernick an apology, because this is literally exactly what he kneeled for?
It's interesting, because for me, about 95% of what I feel like I see from a lot of people is disingenuous to me. I told somebody, this actually all makes me very uncomfortable. And I said, because exactly this is what Kaepernick was talking about. And it was peaceful protest, and people then made it seem like it was the wrong thing to do. And, oh my God, you're disrespecting the flag and veterans. They went every which way but right. And then it was never brought back center, because maybe if it had been, perhaps what we see with the nature of George Floyd could have been avoided. Maybe. Not saying it would have been, but maybe. If they apologize, to me, it's only doing it because they feel like they need to do it, not because they really mean it. So my thing is, if you don't mean it, just don't say it. But to save face, they feel like they have to say it because of the fact of how everything has now unfolded. And it's kind of like his truth came to light So how could you ignore it? You know what I mean? Because there was a whole bunch of stuff that was supposed to happen after, Malcolm Jenkins and some others got together and met with the NFL. There was supposed to be like PSAs and all these different initiatives. And a couple teams, including I want to say Tampa Bay and maybe Chicago, I could be lying,
Bears, yep.
actually met with the police forces and tried to create an initiative, but it never went anywhere. So it was like everybody did something to say we got involved, but enough didn't happen. But by the way, I don't expect for the NFL to fix social justice, only to have a voice because you have a platform. They're not going to fix the problem that's been marinating for more than we're talking like 300 years. So they're not the fix it. So should they apologize? Yes, but they should really be careful in how they apologize. And they should take true accountability and be so transparent, because if you don't, I'm going to look at you and be like, that's BS. They're just saying that. And if he gets a job, to be honest, we know why he's getting a job. He's getting a job because, again, it's a move to save face. And to be honest, if I'm Kaepernick, I don't know if I even want it. But that's just me. So when he apologizes, because I keep watching all these people apologize, I'm like, this seems like the fakest shit I have ever seen in my entire life. I'm like, what are you exactly apologizing for? They better never have me in a conversation with anybody who makes an apology. I'll be like, what exactly are you apologizing for? Because I want to make sure they understand what they're apologizing for. Because I think there's a whole lot of white people involved in this. And this is not me trying to sidearm white people. It's not. They have no clue what the hell is really going on. They jumped onto a movement, Black Lives Matter, which about 5 years ago, everybody wanted to discredit and say that it didn't. It was like, why would you say that? Everyone's lives matter. So I'm struggling with this. So Goodell has to literally be very clear in his apology. He has to flat out say, I feel that we failed as an organization when Colin Kaepernick brought this to our attention. He not just to our attention, he brought it to a nation. And the way that we responded to it was a reflection of exactly how racism grows. We didn't want to have the conversation because we felt like it was something we didn't want to talk about. And perhaps if we had listened to him, who knows if we'd be here. There's so many concerns that have now come up that were already being presented that we ignored. So as a leader of one of the most important organizations, obviously in the world of sports, I failed to listen. I wasn't sensitive enough to what he was talking about. I failed. And I'm sorry for that, because I don't know that I really believed that it was a kind of issue that he said. But now that more things have been brought to light, I have to acknowledge I was wrong. He has to say he was wrong. And he gets paid, by the way, enough money to say it.
$40+ million a year he does. I think the biggest reason that he came out already was because of the video that a lot of the players posted on Instagram a couple of days prior. You're not going to blackball Patrick Mahomes. You're not going to blackball Saquon Barkley. You're not going to blackball DeAndre Hopkins. You're not going to blackball Deshaun Watson. These are all the young stars that the NFL is banking on moving into the next phase of this is the next crop of superstars. And when they all bond together and made that video, the Odell Beckham Jr.'s, and that's it. You can't. They had to make a response. They had to respond because if they didn't, and imagine. Just imagine. I don't know how likely this is, but just imagine if those guys sat out. If those guys, the star power that Patrick Mahomes has, Saquon Barkley has it in the Northeast, Odell Beckham Jr., Deshaun, all the star power taken away from the NFL. The NFL is not going to go bankrupt. We know that, but that's a lot of money that people are going to lose because these guys, because they didn't want to make a statement, and they realized, which is what I thought was perfect and beautiful. They realized the power that they had, and they came together
yes.
and did that and forced the hand of the NFL to make an apology. Now, it wasn't with the apology that we wanted. It wasn't the statement that we wanted. There was no apology to Colin Kaepernick, but at least it was a statement, and you saw, and maybe that going forward, young players will bond together and say, hey, listen, this is what we want. Otherwise, we're out.
It's interesting because it literally took a loaded gun for Black athletes to step up. These were no John Carlos. Let me just tell you that. They were not. Because when Kaepernick took the knee within the Black community for Black athletes, they were very divided, which in a way really bothered me. But I realized that for many of them, it was like, if I do this, what's the consequence? Because that's how a lot of Black people feel who are in maybe traditional jobs where they're a minority. You know what I'm saying? They feel like if I speak up, what happens to my livelihood, or could I be blackballed? Talk to Craig Hodges about how it feels.
What Abdul Rauf.
Yes, to speak up and the consequences. So I had to be a little softer and understand that for those that felt polarized, it was because realistically, they've looked historically how a lot of athletes have been treated when they stepped up. But now that they've been handed the loaded weapon, which is the death of George Floyd, now everything that Kaepernick has said has come to full circle. It's like, I keep telling people, George Floyd was the part 2 of Rodney King. We were mortified when we saw Rodney King be beat by the police, but Rodney King didn't die. He got paid off and it kind of went away. Right there, we knew there was a problem. And there were issues around the country and we kept seeing it, but people just couldn't figure out how to deal with it. And there were other things, but right in plain sight in front of you, you saw what happened to George Floyd. And at that point, it could no longer be ignored. It's like he gave his death, though obviously that's not what he planned on that day, was not so much, it was the spark to the powder keg that was already there. You know what I mean? So now I feel like athletes, this is your platform. This is your time to strike. And here's the thing. You finally don't have to bite your tongue or be held hostage. So don't let the moment pass you by and don't waste it, because who knows how long it'll take to get back to this point. It took us 54 years to get to this point. That means the ending of segregation. To get to being able to have this kind of social movement as a country, it's taken that long. Don't waste it.
You know, here Bernard Mull just quoted, "Many players are stepping out of the shadows, but does this actually change the mindset of the Shield, or are they just falling back based on what's going on and just writing it out until things die?"
FYI, that's part of the Smoke Fellas. That's our Saturday show, the Humidor Sports and Cigar Podcast. So make sure you tune in on Saturdays at noon. You want to hear some real deal talking over a good cigar? Check out my guys.
Yeah, that's a good question that he poses. You know, I think it's. I think they're gonna kind of tie it, wait till this dies down. But I think they're gonna be a little more conscious, because now that, as I talked about, this younger generation of athlete, or just of kids in general, they're a lot more outspoken. They have the power of social media. This is going to be business as usual, as it was before, because of the voice. And as I said, when they collectively made that video, and it was the power players in the play, as far as players go, the NBA and the NFL has to take notice. They have to take notice again. Patrick Mahomes, Saquon Barkley, Deshaun Watson, Odell Beckham Jr., all these young guys who are, you know, the face moving forward for the NFL. You have to take notice, and you know, these are your people, and you definitely don't want a rift with these guys, because these are the guys that they're continuing to put over $200 million in every owner's pocket every year.
You know, it's understand it. And when Bernard posed a question with the players that, you know, stepping out of the shadows, does it actually change the mindset of the Shield? No, it doesn't. I personally believe, and I will always believe this, that what you're seeing by most big corporations is a matter of circumstance. Not because they could have done this. There's enough things that have happened within our respective community with the loss of life that's very questionable, that they could have been proactive if they wanted to. But mind you, most of these organizations are like, I'm not trying to be a social justice organization. I just want to play football, or I just want to play basketball. So do I believe that they're 100% invested? Absolutely not. I feel like their hand is being forced, because right now, if you sit back and don't say something, people are like, the NFL didn't say anything. And what probably like 85% of your players are probably African-American. How could you not say something? CrossFit right now is under fire for the way that they have handled situations. The owner actually retired from the organization. Stepped down. So I personally feel, I'm going to tell you something. I feel like every person who comes out and says something, I feel like they're disingenuous, because there was plenty of things going on from a community standpoint, because almost every organization has a community mission statement of things that they want to do within their respective communities. So you couldn't have a blind eye of all these different things and disparities that were going on in the city where you operate. So for me, I feel like people are making statements because they feel like they have to. There are some legitimate people who feel that things are wrong. A lot of people are becoming awakened, and it isn't just Black people. There are people who are kind of like, okay, but now you need to be educated on how we got to this point. Because I'm gonna tell you something. If I'm starting to get too many hellos, and it's starting to bother me. I'm like, hi, walk faster. No, really. Because I'm afraid one day the wrong person is going to say it, because for everybody who believes this is wrong, you must know there are people that are aggravated by this, very aggravated by it. You're probably about to see one of the biggest divisions in our country like you have never seen if we pursue this to the level that we have to.
You know what's so funny? You talked about the CrossFit thing, and we mentioned that the other day, and I posted that because I do CrossFit, and I posted that in my the private group on Facebook. But literally, as we were talking about seconds before you mentioned CrossFit, I just got a text from a grammar school friend. She works in New York. She writes for Vox, and she wanted to know if I knew any CrossFit owners. Obviously, the box that I go to, so I'm gonna pass that along. But it just was so funny. Literally 20 seconds before you mentioned it, I got that text from her asking if put her in contact with with a CrossFit owner, because she's doing a story on the implosion and the issue with the CEO. So,
but the thing is, it was always an issue from what I gathered. And it was saying that when individuals would go to, it wasn't just him, it was a culture. When they would go to different gyms and ask them not to play songs with the N-word, they got pushback. Because, a lot of white people thought that was cool. Now, mind you, that's partially our fault. Because
big time.
Because we kept saying it. Just because I say it don't mean you can say it. But then if you put it in music, here's the thing, and I put it out there for consumption, you know what I'm saying? It's a very complicated thing. But I always say just err on the side of caution and just don't play it, because there might be somebody in the room like, excuse you, no, because everyone's not okay with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But a lot of the gyms were like, whatever, you're just being too sensitive. Well, you're being ignorant and insensitive. So It isn't just him. Even at some of those gym levels, there were issues going on.
Yeah, so it's all all over the place, and it's back to the original topic, and that was the NFL. I think the NFL, the players, they're starting to realize how much power they have, because you look at the NBA, because the NBA was a lot more forward thinking, and they allowed a lot more leeway as far they back in 14. They wearing the "I Can't Breathe" shirts, and they're a lot more open.
Trayvon
Martin with different
hoodies with like his image on it. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So then the NBA, they have that leeway. NFL, you didn't have that leeway. As you talked about, you have owners like Jerry Jones. Like you'll be fired, you'll be cut immediately if you kneel for the anthem and things like that. You had bossy owners. All of a sudden now, I guarantee you, he's not going to cut Dak. Oh, also was Ezekiel Elliott was in that video as well. So you're going to cut Ezekiel. You're going to cut all these guys.
Was Dak Prescott in that video?
That I don't remember.
I read an article he did an interview with that strongly disturbed me about his stance about being a biracial person. It kind of aggravated me. And I was like, I'm glad I could never have a conversation with him, because I didn't like how he talked about his role. He was like saying, because to me, Dak Prescott is going to say whatever he feels like he needs to say to the Cowboys. So there's a term that we would use for him, but I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to let that sit where it is. But he was like, well, I feel like I'm the person in the locker room that can bridge. And this was during the whole Kaepernick thing, that can bridge the gap between my black and white players, because I'm biracial. And I understand what it's like to be at my mom's house where the family is like, lawyers and doctors, and then go cross the railroad tracks and go to my dad's house, where people went to jail. And I got real offended, because the description you just put is you made it seem like your black side of the family like the worst people in the world. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's not what the black experience is. Thank you for filling in the blanks. That's how people think about an entire race of people. So I don't particularly care for his mindset. Now, mind you, I get it's his experience, so I can't discount it. I just didn't particularly care for it. But I'm going to tell you something. Pick your teams where you're going to have issues. The Cowboys are going to be an issue because of Jerry Jones. Take his Botox having too many, plastic surgery ass to task. Seriously. I mean, as a black player, force the issue with them. Because it's the Cowboys. It's America's team. So if you can't make them have a come to Jesus moment, then who else? You can go hard and fast after the Patriots if you want, but Bob Kraft is a little different. Now, Boston's a different beast. That's the social piece that's different. Kraft might be a little different about it. But I want to see how some teams respond to this, because players plan on taking a knee.
They do. They do very well. We're going to talk about one. We're going to talk a little Bears in the next segment. And that's going to be a huge situation, how teams handle it. And we'll mention it a little now. We'll take this as the next top of the morning topic, and that's Bears safety. Jordan Lucas says, and this is in the Chicago Sun-Times today, he 110% plans to kneel for the anthem. So what are they going to do? What are the Bears going to do? What are other teams going to do? I'm concerned about what the Bears are going to do and how they're going to handle this, if they talk with him. And now here's the thing. So if anyone kneels and loses a job, first of all, that team is going to get unbelievable backlash. The PR mess that's going to happen with whoever cuts a player for doing that is going to be ridiculous. I want to see how it's going to play out. I want to see, are they truly going to stand by? If there shouldn't be any backlash. Why? It shouldn't be, because Roger Goodell just came and said that they were wrong in not listening to the players. So if the players want to continue to speak, then guess what? They need to listen to the players. So this is them speaking.
But think about it. This is where you get the Shield, the umbrella organization, speaking about their stance versus the individual organizations that the Shield represents. So have they sat down collectively with the NFL and its 32 teams and taken a stance on this and had a conversation? If he hasn't, he's late. And he better start having it now. Like, we need to approach this in this manner. Because I'll be honest, any team that gives pushback on their player taking a knee, here's what's different than last time. When Colin Kaepernick took the knee last time, it was people frowned upon it. They were upset. Well, now what? Here's the shift. And this is real talk. I don't care how mad people get about it. Because you have white people, you've got females that are white females and people of other backgrounds now supporting this movement. Oh, they're hot and heavy to find out where they can go protest and make a difference. So you're not going to just get black people being the angry black people about their situation, being told to sit down and shut up and go back to the back of the bus. No, it doesn't work like that. You now have a country full of people who are becoming conscious of the situation. So if any individual team gives pushback, you're going to hear a resounding what? And it's not going to be a good look. Whereas, let's say 3, 4, 5 years ago, they could get away with it. And they did.
Yeah. Oh, they did big time. But you're right. The landscape has changed. The landscape has changed, and more people are supporting this movement. More, not even in this country. We're getting unbelievable support. We're talking countries around the world are supporting this movement, are having, hashtag Black Lives Matter, hashtag, Justice for George, all these, and this is, countries, across the pond and in various corners of the earth. It's not just here in America. So if there is going to be some pushback, the owners they're going to have to, I'm sure they're going to have meetings and say, hey, listen, if you give pushback, if you talk, say anything negative about one of your players kneeling, here's what's going to happen. Because they already have people who forecast, okay, if this happens, here's what's going to happen. Yep. They have people. They have, they have pictures. They have what was on Scandal? What was Olivia Pope's job? She was like she forecast everything. Sure, that was her job.
Right.
Okay, she was a fixer. And then, believe you me, the NFL has fixers. Like, okay, here's how it's going to go this route. Here's how it's going to go if you go this route. And here's how it's going to go if you go this route.
Their fixers suck because their fixers has not had them prepared for a damn thing that's ever happened. So they should fire all of them and get some new people. Because now, the conversation is we need to get more diversity. Hello, this conversation is so old. You've been told this repeatedly that you needed more diversity from coaching to, middle management, just throughout the organizations. And I'm not just talking about Black people. I'm just talking about people of color, women. You need to mix it up so you get to understand your fan base and what's going on. And you can have your ear to the ground and understand. Because now here's the thing. Social issues now become intertwined with entertainment. It used to be art imitated life. Well, now it's it's both ways now. They're really inseparable. And understand, a lot of fans do not like the fact that, I'm telling you something, it's a whole bunch of people who are not people of color who are going, we're going to have to do this again. I just want, and especially coming out of a quarantine, a lot of people just want their sports back. And what they really don't want right now is to have to deal with this. Like, wait a minute. So sports are back. And now I got to deal with this, because those are the people who haven't dialed into what's really going on. All they want is what they want. You know what I mean? So be ready for a real big split, and it's going to get ugly. It is.
Here's the thing about that. And to all those people who have that mindset, I ask you this, and I say this to you. You're tired of hearing about racism. You're tired of hearing about, something else. Imagine living it. Imagine living it every single day. Imagine getting called this. Imagine getting discriminated by the fact that you're a woman or the fact that you're black or you're Hispanic from a job. Imagine living it. If you're tired of hearing about it, imagine living it. And that's all, that's the bottom line, because the Supervac said so. Don't talk to me about you're tired of hearing it. Walk a mile in a man's shoes and see, because these issues don't affect you personally. You get tired of them. Yeah. You get real tired of them very quickly when you have to deal with them on a consistent basis. And a lot of times you don't see them coming. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we see them coming like, all right, I'm going into the store, so, I'm not surprised if someone is following me and things. Okay, but when it hits you out of the blue and, you try and prepare yourself as you get older, you try and prepare yourself for situations. And when you walk into something and you just get blindsided, yeah, that sucks. So, I hear that you're tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of dealing with it, and we're tired of dealing with it.
One of the things that has to come from this, if you don't know your past, you have no idea how you arrived at this point. So and because we've managed to not teach history properly, most people don't understand. When we talk about institutionalized racism, I'm like, why do you say that? We socialize with black people. That's not what it's about. But because we failed to educate our nation about our real history so that we could grow and move past it, it's doomed to repeat itself. What do they tell you? 2020 is hindsight. This year, that saying should be the top of your list. We knew all this was happening well before we got to 2020. You know what I mean? Yep. I would tell people, if you really want to start to educate yourself, one of the simplest ways you can do it is literally take a trip down to the National Lynching Memorial that's in Montgomery, Alabama. And by the time you finish with that memorial and you see all of the people who have lost their lives because of racism, injustice, inequality, and the list goes on, you will be so overwhelmed you won't know what to say, because we've hidden that. And then there's a museum that lays it all out for you how we got to that point. If you need a quick education point, it's done really well, and you'll walk away understanding how we got to where we are. It's just that simple. Because to me, Shawn, I think talking about what happened isn't good enough. People need visuals to see. When you see a memorial hanging that has like 10 or 15 names, because it's by state, by county. So you can literally go, if you happen to be a white person, and if you know your family, where they're from, their origin, and what county, you can look to see if you see someone that has your name on that county. So literally, it goes by every state. And granted, Illinois didn't have the most, but we still had some, in Cook County, believe it or not, had the most lynchings. So with that being said, when people then see that, I think they'll understand that's your history. I guess we kept telling you to let that go.
Yeah, let it go. No big deal. It's over.
But you know what? I tell you who they never tell a Jewish person to get over the Holocaust, even if they weren't born in the Holocaust. They're never told that. But black people are like, why are you still talking about that? Because it's something that has stayed with us, even though we weren't born into it. And our society has continued to mimic a lot of the things that came from slavery. So not that we should digress on this, but I'm just saying, for people who give pushback on this and be prepared for it, you're going to start to see a decisive division at sports with people. You have friends, you'll be like, wow, I didn't think that they were racist. I thought maybe they were not the most socially aware people. People are starting to notice things about people they never noticed before, based on how they're responding to this situation right now.
Big time. Big time. Well, listen, guys, we got to take a break. And on the other side of the break, we have more sports conversation. We're going to have a little Bears talk coming up, so don't go anywhere, folks. Keep it locked right here. Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago.
Quicken Loans presents the Sports Flash, driven by Jeep on 1330 and 95.9 The Zone. The Cubs' Anthony Rizzo used the COVID quarantine to get in shape. He's down 25 pounds from a season ago and expects to head into training camp right around 2:15. The Major League Baseball Players Association have until today to make a counteroffer to the league, which has proposed a 76-game season and 75% prorated salaries. Multiple reports say players have responded last night, adamant that they receive full prorated salaries while offering to cut the regular season to 89. ESPN's Jeff Passan on what he's heard.
It's been interesting to watch the evolution of where the players have been and where they've got to. I was talking with one player earlier today who was sort of on the fence about this idea of them trying to recoup that full prorated salary. The players have coalesced, and it seems like the union is as strong as it has been in potentially decades.
No monthly payments for 90 days, 0% APR for 84 months. Details at Jeep.com. The Sports Flash is driven by Jeep. Chuck Sanders, 1330, 95.9 The Zone.
We're here to tell you about Boost Mobile's new upgraded network.
That's right. Stronger signal, faster speeds, and more coverage.
So now you can get everything you want faster, like Pitbull's music.
know, the new upgraded network means you can download music faster than ever before. It doesn't mean that it will make Pitbull songs faster.
Oh, so this isn't the song.
No, this is the song.
Well, this is embarrassing.
Step up with Boost Mobile's new upgraded network. Stronger signal, faster speeds, more coverage than before. Switch and get 4 unlimited lines for $25 per line per month and 4 free LG K51 phones. Access to upgraded network requires compatible device. New customers only. Full line offer requires at least 1 port and activation from eligible carrier. Free phone limited to 1 per line while supplies last. Customers using more than 35 gigabytes of data during billing cycle may be deprioritized during times of congestion. Offers and coverage not available everywhere. Additional terms and restrictions apply. See boostmobile.com or retailer for full details.
Cash moves everything around me. Green, get the money. Dollar, dollar bill, yo.
Welcome back to Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago. What a beautiful day here in the Chi. A little rainy. So what's the weather going to be like today? High of 82 and rainy. And I woke up, there was thunderstorms last night.
It's going to be muggy. And
yes. Last night, about even after midnight, I was outside for a quick second. I should have been asleep, but I was outside for a quick second, and I was noticing, wow, it's still warm and muggy, and it's midnight.
I went out to do some interval training this morning, and it was like, oh my God, it's humid. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, it's all that rain.
You did this morning, Maya?
I did interval training. Yes. Run walking. Yes, I did.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. I'm keeping up my quarantine workout. I've been faithful to this, so I'm keeping up the good work.
I've decided to continue to go to CrossFit, but now I'm up it to 4 days a week as opposed to 3. So it's a big difference when you don't have the day off right after. You're like boom boom, you're back to back, and then like today's my day off, and then Thursday, Friday, it's a big difference. And I was doing actually a sprint workout, and then my Achilles got sore. So I'm like, all right, let me. And I remember because I didn't freaking stretch that day. I didn't stretch my Achilles that day.
You didn't stretch? Who are you?
No, I didn't stretch my Achilles. I stretched, but I didn't stretch my Achilles that day. And ever since that day, it's been hurting. Like I can't sprint. I can jog, which I hate, so I don't do that. But
who gave you the advice not to stretch your Achilles? Would you get a Bulls trainer giving you advice?
Yeah, it was. You know what? I was short on time. Like, when you cut corners when you're a little short on time, and that's what you get.
That's what you get. Gotta stretch, especially when we start to get them old bones. You gotta stretch.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? And it was warm too, and that's why I didn't stretch. I'm like, oh, okay, it's warm. It was warm today, so my muscles should be pretty good because my muscles and tendons should be good because it's warm. No, so moving forward, when I'm ready to get back into that sprint workout, the one that Kendall Gill does, he's promoting a 60-40. I was doing that. That's insane, Maya. Insane. Yes. You sprint 60, you jog 40. Then when you touch the other goal line after the 40, you turn around and come back, jog.
Other goal line. By the time I get to the first goal line, they're administering CPR on my old ass. Like, wait up to that line, do it.
But it was good. So I'm gonna get back to that once this gets.
CrossFit, you know what? I did enjoy CrossFit. I do HIIT now. I go 3 times a week and I do a HIIT workout, which is similar, and it's to CrossFit. They're very challenging and they're not the same, and that's why I like it. And it's like a group fitness thing. So yeah, but everybody get out there and do some working out. There's no reason now because you can get out the house. You should have been getting out the house anyways and just walking when you had limited access to the outdoors. So
what's cool at our CrossFit place is they built a like a scaffold. You're in the city and they have a little scaffold. You walk underneath. Yes. Yeah, they built that.
Okay.
So the mats are underneath it, and they're 10 feet apart.
Nice.
So it's awesome. So even if it rains or if it's a light rain, we can still get a workout outside.
Okay.
Nice. So it's real nice. They have 10 slots, so they max the classes at 10 people.
Okay.
One person per each area.
Right.
And go from there. So I'll tell you what, my CrossFit place. Here's a shameless plug for CrossFit Warehouse on 115th in Mayfield. In Elsip is awesome. I'll tell you what, the people are great. The owner, she's a bomb. She is the bomb. She's a Latina. Veronica Romero, and Chingona, man. She's a bomb. She's made it an environment. I told her this the other day because I sent that article about the CEO getting kind of forced out, and she was saying, she put a thing, hey, we're not like that, and I told her, I replied, I'm like, you're not. This place is not like that at all. From day one, everyone's been really warm and supporting and encouraging, and this for everybody, black and white people that I've seen come on, because mostly white people who go there, but I only go in the morning, so I don't know what comes, what the demographic is in the evening. But I've seen pictures, and there's a few more black people and Hispanic people who go in the evening, most likely after work. But you know what? And you see them laughing and picking different pictures. So it's a great environment. I'm fortunate enough to have found this particular box, as they call them, this box, because it's really, really challenging and encouraging. So
nice.
Well, getting back to professional teams, our Bears, Matt Nagy.
Your Bears. I'm
done with this.
I'm still kind of hanging out with the Vikings a little bit this season, so I might be double dipping. This is supposed to be my double dip season. I can move it between both. So
I ain't mad at you, Maya. I've double dipped once or twice before myself. Oh, sorry, we're talking sports. Never mind.
Anyways.
Wrong thing. Never mind. Well, Matt Nagy said, "Ya se acabó no más." He said, "You know what? I'm done. I am done with these Zoom calls. I'm done." Matt Nagy he called the off-season program. He called it off. He ended it about 13 days left in it, and he says, "We're done." He said we wouldn't do this if we thought we didn't have what we needed offensively, defensively, and on special teams. So there's no more Zoom meetings. They're not going to meet again until training camp. Your thoughts, because I think it's a horrible thing. And I know Zoom meetings can be boring, and there's nothing like actually getting out there. But if I were him, I'd say, listen, I can't tell you to do this because it's against union rules. But if I were you, I'd make sure you guys were in Chicago out together. Saying that you have to, I'm just saying if I were you, because man, we already know that Mitch Trubisky. We had Alyssa Barbieri on the other day talking about one of her articles where Mitch and Allen Robinson are working out together 4 times a week, and I thought that's awesome. Right. Well, get more people out there. Cole Kmet, get your ass out there. Jimmy Graham, get your ass out there. Right. Anthony Miller, we need a big year from you. You get your ass. All these wide receivers, you need to be tracking there. And then Mitch needs to say, hey, listen. Nick Foles needs to say, hey, listen, where are you at? Because this is a competition, and I might be the starter. Or what if you go down, Mitch? I want to have some rapport with these guys. You know what I mean? Like they literally all need to be together. But your thoughts on Matt Nagy saying, I'm done with the Zoom meetings. We're not going to meet up again until training camp.
I mean, there's only so much you can accomplish. To me, I think it's good to do check-ins with the team just to make sure everybody's like, hey, what's going on? How are you handling? Are you getting prepared? Are you doing your workouts, doing your check-ins? He may do individual one-on-ones with people. I don't know how they structure their Zoom calls. It's probably like the O-line, and then, I'm not sure how they structure them. And they're right, they can be boring, but there's also different things you can interact into it. So my thing is, it depends on how he's using the Zoom call. You know what I mean? If he's just using it like is this blanket call just to talk stuff about you're not really doing, then to me, it's not beneficial. But if they were taking the time, say there were some things specifically with Anthony Miller that you wanted to work on, you could literally use the Zoom call to start working on those small things so that when you got together, you've already talked about it, and he can know when we get into training camp, this is what you're focusing on. So this would have been the time to do a great one-on-one player evaluation and say, we pulled, because you can share screens and
I found that out
and information, and you can say, okay, so there were 3 things we think this is what you can do to improve your game to take it to the next level for this season, and talk about film. Don't do a group, use them as one-on-ones and say, here's what we're going to work on. So when you get to training camp, here's the clips we talked about. Here's some additional things we're sending you to watch. So when we get into training camp, boom, we can start working on these things. To me, it's how you use the technology. So if you're not using it like that and you're just sitting there having a group meeting, of course it's boring. So the question is, did Nagy use it appropriately?
That's a good question. I'm thinking it makes sense to it makes sense for them to do it by position. My position coach, like the running backs, you have a Zoom meeting with all four, 3 or 4 or 5, however you, and say, here's what we do. Wide receiver, same thing. Offensive line, same thing. And then you have a different Zoom meeting when he wants to address the entire team. That makes sense to me. And if I could think of it, like that, at the drop of a dime, I'm sure they had to have thought about it, because I'm sure there's other teams who are doing it, and if not, their friends be like, hey, listen, this team is doing this. Why don't we do it by position? So I'm sure that they would have done it.
Just a big group team Zoom is not it. Zoom. Anyways, but that's not doing it. You should have been using this far more like on a microscopic level with people than a larger level. Like, don't deal with the petri dish. Just pull one small sample out and work with people individually. Like I said, and you look at film with them and you send them some stuff and say, here are key plays we want you to pay attention to where, we failed in coverage in this. And then maybe you have a session where you just have the line and you said, okay, here's some clips we want to watch to talk about. Here's where this was going good. And then here was the breakdown. You know what I mean? Just using film and stuff to kind of work with people on that level. So when you get back in the training camp, now you planted a seed in their brain about, okay, I got to be mindful not to do this because this is this. But if they didn't do it that way, then I could see why he thinks it has no value, because maybe he wasn't using it right. I'm not real high on Nagy in the first place.
Right,
so,
I know.
With that being said, do I think he used the tool appropriately? I don't know. But there's a 50-50 that he probably didn't. Because this is asking a lot of coaches to step outside their realm, to do something they've never had to do before. They're used to the in-person, you know what I'm saying, conversations with players. Not sitting like this and talking to people this way in a virtual sense. So I'm not surprised that he doesn't understand exactly how he should be using it.
Yeah, for me, again, being a coach, similar to some position meetings. You meet with your position coach. Yeah. And then at another part of practice, then you meet with the defensive coordinator as a unit. And then another part of practice is when you deal with the head coach, because now you're together. So as long as he was doing it that way, which I would assume that's what he was doing, because again, when you have players who are maybe on other teams, guys who are on the Bears who have friends on the other teams who are doing it that way, they're going to say, well, wait a minute, why don't we do it just like this? Because just basically you meet by position and you go over your specific thing, and that's the position coach's job, is to make sure that you work on your position and say, okay, here's what we need to do. Here's during games, in off season, you meet with a position before you meet with the defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, or special teams coordinator, and then the team. So I would assume, but you never want to assume, because it makes an ass. I never want to make an assumption, because it makes an ass out of you and umption. So never want to do that. So, but I was in this case, I'd hopefully assume that he's doing it right, because if they were, then they could get a lot of work in, especially during all this time with saying, okay, because you talked about, I just found out about this with my credit business, where you can share screens. So now we're all watching film at the same time when you share it, and everyone in your position is watching it. Just like you're in a room.
Exactly.
Just like you're in a room. So I can see that, but I would, again, if I were Matt Nagy, I would highly suggest that you guys get here and you guys make a way to work out together. I can't tell you to do that, but I would highly suggest it. But
that's the thing, right? That's the thing you say that's not part of the public conversation. Mm-hmm. In fact, I don't think it's wise that he says, I'm over this Zoom stuff. Okay, so what exactly are you saying? You're going to stop preparing your team for the upcoming season? Because then the next thing will be, the reason the Bears suck is because they cut back on their Zoom meetings when they couldn't be. That'll be the next crazy thing that somebody will say if the season doesn't matriculate into what they think it should be based on the expectations of where they should be at this season. So, my thing is, why even say that? A lot of people are fed up with the way that our normal is not the same normal that we're used to. You know what I mean? So just roll with it and focus on something else. That's aggravating. The fact that he said that kind of now aggravates me. It's like, man, grow up.
Hey, Ivan, chime in for a second. Listen, save this clip. Save this clip when Maya said that, because there's going to be somebody who's like, well, if they would have been there Zooming, he cut it short. What kind of coach does that? He had 13 days left to work on Zoom meetings, and I guarantee you that was part of the reason why they don't understand what they're doing. Save this clip that Maya said that.
How much film they could have watched on Zoom together?
For 13 days, you realize how much and that's Matt Nagy not doing his job. And I'm not saying I'm a huge fan of Nagy, but I'm just saying that's what people are going to say. Save this clip so we come back. So week 2 or 3 or 4, when somebody says that, we're like, we talked about this on June 10th. Okay, take a listen to what Maya had to say and see how people want to find any and everything to discredit to validate their point. But yeah, that's.
I got you.
That's hilarious. That is awesome. So next question, Maya, what do you think? Are we going to see a lot more Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles in the preseason?
You know, it's interesting because it's one thing because you're used to seeing like your starting quarterback doesn't get a lot of time until like that final game, which of you know,
and then
right.
Mm-hmm.
So, but my thing is, okay, so technically, Mitch Foles. I'm sorry, Mitch Foles. Jesus Christ, that's awful. I'm sorry, Nick. I'm so sorry I did that to you. Oh my God, I just said the negative. I just sent out a negative freaking vibe because I called him Mitch Foles. Oh, Jesus Christ!
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
I know I did. I just jinxed it. Nick, I'm sorry. I promise you. No. I would expect that we'll see a little bit more of him because he's the one who has to get acclimated with the season, with the team and their playbook. So it's not so much that he's not good enough, but it gives him game time, action. So, but real talk, Mitch needs it too. So perhaps we'll see a little bit of a split of it, not too much. But they both need the touches just because Foles is coming into the system. Mitch has proven that he's not as efficient with the system like they wanted to sell us last year that he was, and I knew he was lying when he said it. So he needs the touches. And let's be honest, coming out of quarantine, everything about how you would prepare for your season is different than what it would normally be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we got a texter, Anthony Bell, saying it should be split 50-50. And I agree. I
agree too, because Mitch needs the touches, and so does Nick to get acclimated. So I feel like it should be 50-50. And it's going to probably be pretty close to that. It might be 60-40 or something. Let's just see that. Let's just say it looks like Nick is in there and he's adjusted. Everything is rolling. He's connecting, but Mitch is struggling. Then you may see more of Mitch. So it just depends. I mean, I think if you're Nagy, use this time wisely. Don't subscribe to what you're supposed to normally do in preseason, or if somebody gets hurt. If someone's going to get hurt, they're going to get hurt. You know what I mean? You can't. That's what an accident's called. You can't foreshadow an accident or an injury. It's part of what comes with the territory. So to me, it should be 50-50. And if it looks like, Mitch is needing more and Nick is okay, then you adjust it accordingly. So I think that's what we should expect.
I agree. I think that's the perfect way to put it. But so do you think they're going to get more time, and because you could split the reps 50-50, but they only get 10 reps each,
right.
Or you know what I mean? And then now it's still only 10 plays. Do you think they're actually going to get more time in preseason games? So not just, 10 reps. We're talking maybe all games, get them into the second, maybe have them play the first quarter or first half.
Yes.
So Mitch get one quarter, Nick get the other quarter, and adjust it, obviously, because if you have a couple 3 and outs, fine. But you think they're gonna play longer. I guess that's the way I should have phrased it. Do you think they're gonna play longer into preseason games because you got 2 quarterbacks, one who you drafted number 2 overall and still can't pick up the system, and 2, a guy who's familiar with the system but is not familiar with the talent that's in the system, and he's got to get familiar with that talent, which is why I said, Nick Foles needs to say, hey, Mitch, where you guys, where you hanging out at? Where you kicking it at? Because I need to go hang out with you and A-Rob and everybody else who comes, because I need this time too to get some chemistry and get familiar with these receivers as well. So now, you know what I mean? So now that's one less thing that I have to worry about in training camp.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to me, Nagy has to throw away the preconceived notion of what you do with preseason, because he is much on the hot seat as Pace is with, okay, so now we're giving you someone that, if Mitch doesn't work, should be able to step in, because we know that Foles is here for the comfort of Nagy, not because he was the best available quarterback in the market when there were quarterbacks out there. This is purely about his comfort level, which means he needs to make this work. So if he thinks he can my thing is, preseason is practice. It's active practice. So you need to use it to make sure that Mitch is ready and Foles is ready. And if it takes more than 10 touches, if it takes a quarter, you know what I'm saying? He needs to be flexible that way to make sure that they're prepared for the regular seasons when the wins and losses count. If he goes in there with that mindset about it's preseason, not supposed to do this, not supposed to do that, somebody can get injured. Injuries are going to happen and you can't control them one way or the other. But it's important that he uses preseason for the preparation it's supposed to be. So I would expect more than 10 touches, unless for some reason they both just look like they look good, things are working or clicking, you know what I mean? Then you adjust accordingly. But if you see any sign of struggle with either one of them, it's imperative that you give them more time to get ready for the regular season. Because my question is, what would be the reason that you wouldn't get them prepared for the regular season?
Nagy has already been quoted as saying that the starters will play in the preseason. Remember, the first couple of years they didn't play, And people, the first year it was like, okay, great, it worked out okay because they went 12-4. Then last year, like, well, now I see you should have had guys play in the preseason, which I'm a subscriber of. Play in the preseason, and like you said, Maya, if you're gonna get hurt, you're gonna get hurt. You get hurt falling down the stairs at the house, stepping on your kid's toy and falling on it. I mean, these, as funny as it sounds, it's happened. So you're gonna get hurt. You're gonna get hurt if you live life that way. Scared, especially in the NFL, you can't play and you can't live and you can't train going to anything scared. It's got to be full go at all times. So get them playing in preseason games. Again, I say give them a quarter each in each game, and then maybe the third game where they usually play a half. Maybe they have them go into the third quarter. Split time that way. But you're going to need everybody to get reps, and you're going to need especially Mitch, because it's not the system that I'm worried about for Nick. Nick's fine. He won a Super Bowl in this system, so he's fine. It's just the personnel that he's got to get used to, because the speed of the wide receivers is going to be different. The way the offensive line blocks is going to be different. The way the running back blocks and catches the ball and where they like to catch it is going to be different. So he's got to get that stuff down. So because once he does get that stuff down, the most important thing, the system, he already has down. He's got a Super Bowl ring and a Super Bowl MVP to show for it.
Well, to that point, it's Nick Foles, that the year he won with the Eagles, the year he won the Super Bowl, won Super Bowl MVP. He was in Philadelphia for 2 years. I mean, he was in Philadelphia before, but he was in Philadelphia 17, 18. And even with the familiarity with the system, like you said, Shawn, you have to learn your players. Like, you have to learn the guys you're going to war with every Sunday, Saturday, Thursday, what have you. And I think it took Nick another, because I mean, he was backing up Wentz. It took him a whole another year. So it took him another year to get familiar with the player, with the personnel in the system in order to have some success. And even then, he came in a backup role. So you don't, with the number ones, you're not getting that many reps, with the number one. So the chances for to gain that camaraderie, that connection, it's lacking. But look at what he did. Look at what he did coming in a backup role without all that experience. I could see Nick doing. I almost called him Mitch. So you got me. I almost called him Mitch.
That's a bad sign.
I know.
That's a bad sign.
No, I feel dirty now. But I can see him doing it. I can see him doing it here if Mitch ends up going, being Mitch and not a good Mitch, the bad Mitch. Yeah, I could see Nick taking over without that many reps.
Well, look, Mitch is walking a tightrope on this. We know that he has very little room for error on this. This is the fact. Here's how you know that this has all been an absolute cluster. The fact that we're coming into this part of his career and the preseason conversation is that he still needs reps. That right there is indicative that he never should have been drafted that high. He was never a starter, and you tried to make something magical that wasn't going to happen. So, Nagy, you have to accept you made a bad choice, and Foles is obviously your backup. The fact that you're saying your starters are going to play, which means there's a lot of pieces here that we're not exactly sure about how they come together. So you don't have the luxury of a team that's established and can play that you feel like they don't have to have their starters on the field. Their talent evaluation isn't about their starters, it's about their backups. The problem with the Bears is their talent evaluation is about their starters needing time and not about their backups, which means a part of that piece is lost. That's a real poor position to be in as an organization that has had a head coach this long, has been drafting, that you're still questioning what your starters can do and if they can still work together. That's indicative of how poorly this team has been managed.
Well, I do give Nagy cut him some slack because he didn't realize what Mitch was. They were very high on him in Kansas City, and remember they didn't draft him here. They were very high on him when he was with the Chiefs. Okay, and when he got here, he thought, oh, he's getting something. And then you look at his rookie year, and you're like, okay, well, it's with John Fox, and Dow Loggins, that whole system. We didn't get a true snapshot of what he could do. I can go over there and do it, but then he gets here, and it's like, oh man, he can't read defenses. Oh man, he can't do this. Oh man, he can't do that. That's the type of stuff that you don't see until you actually have a player. So I cut him some slack there, which is why he went out and got Nick Foles. Anthony Bell again. He said, I can see that. He commented, I can see that 60-40, like Maya says. He goes, but every other quarter, you have to put everyone else in to assess their strengths. He said the number ones must play as much as possible. And he said for pandemic reasons alone, and that's true because no OTAs, no nothing.
See, that's the other piece of this. So I guess a good question would be on this is how many injuries are we going to see in the NFL this season because of the nature of how their whole camps, OTAs have been. See, that's the other thing the team should have been encouraging them in the Zooms. Like, hey, guys, make sure you're working out. You're doing this. You know, if nothing else, your trainer, you could be doing a visual. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're just sitting at home and you're not working out, you're not prepared. So here's what you don't want to see in the training camps that we're going to be more virtual for us than they are going to be interactive. It's going to be media based. You know what I mean? Showing you film and then press conferences. That's the best the fans are going to really get from it. And if I hear one person say they're not in shape, I'll be like, why? If my old out of shape ass can work at this, why can't you? And you get paid millions of dollars to do it. So to me, that would be the lowest excuse I will accept, that someone was not prepared for the season physically. What's missing is that practice time, you know what I'm saying, that you would get. But to be physically in shape, every Bear reporting should be physically in shape. And if they're not, it's like as a team, you didn't push them hard enough to make sure they were focused and ready to go.
It should be fine. I mean, hell, you just saw what Anthony Rizzo. Have you seen the picture of him? I know you like you some Rizzo.
You know I can't stand him. He decided he wanted to get rid of some of his baby fat.
And he looks jacked. And you know, I'm not a Cub fan. Well, he looks wow. I mean, he is in shape now. He looks like a legitimate, you know. And he was a little fluffy.
He looks like he can steal 15 bases. 15 to 20.
Yeah, he looks amazing, you know, and that's the, I guess, you know, I don't doubt his power is going to go down. I don't, you know, none of that's going to be, but he just, you know, he decided to work on in this quarantine when he should have been playing, and he lost 25 pounds, and man, he's ripped to shreds. I was like, oh damn.
Is he like Kyle Schwarber of this season? You know, because last year Schwarber came back, and he was cock diesel, and everybody was like, whoa, Kyle.
Yeah.
You know,
he's gonna have to go down a shirt size and maybe a couple pounds.
You know. Look at the Uberless driver. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so there's a lot. And the thing is, here's what's interesting. You know, say Maya Rothus said this on June 10th. If the Bears have an absolutely just awful season or underperform again, which I'd like to determine up front, what is an acceptable season? What is the thing that makes you feel like Nagy and Pace should keep their jobs? That's the first thing. Is it just going
10? I think 10 wins.
10 wins? I mean, if they break 500, is that not good enough?
Yeah, 500 is not good enough. You got to get 10.
I think you need to have. I think you need to have a trip to the conference championship. I mean, if you get to the divisional round and get blown out, then you have to still look at them to be fired, because you pretty much just showed up to get your ass kicked. Well, I think you have to make a solid run and have competitive games in the playoffs for me to say this is a successful season. If not win the Super Bowl, because that's the goal, isn't it?
I'm not expecting to win a Super Bowl, but I will say no, because that would be like, oh Jesus, 2020 just blew everything out the water. Okay, Chicago. No,
it's gonna be the Bills.
Because would it be something like if the Bulls didn't make the playoffs, but if the Bulls made the playoffs and the Bears made the playoffs, and everything I'm saying, we'd be like, it's pandemic.
Win the World Series.
We'd be like, repeat this shit next year. No, I'm just kidding.
Hashtag love coronavirus. Hashtag.
Hey, no, I'm just kidding. No, we don't want to do that.
No, we're being facetious, people.
I'm with you. They must be better than 500. So 10 wins. You're right. Give me two above. I'll take that. That's
the bottom of it. Yeah, that's the least.
And Ivan, I'm with you about making a playoff appearance because of the fact, real talk, within the Bears' respective division, there's no dominance. Green Bay has a question mark next to it, and they've been the dominant team. The Vikings, as much as we hang out and we like to, be cozy. They're not consistent. No, but they're not consistent. Is the problem. And the Lions.
Detroit is just Detroit. They're going to Detroit themselves. So
Lions, Bears. Oh my, they're Detroit. God, you know what? Just shaming the name of a lion. Anyways, I know my Detroit friends are going to be like, Maya, get off Detroit. But I'm just saying. But if you think about the Bears' respective division, it's kind of ripe for the taking. So they can make the playoffs just purely based on the division is weak right now. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of with you, Ivan, like strike while the iron's hot, and that's some redeeming qualities for Pace and his decision-making as well as Nagy. So I'm with both of you. At least 10 games, a win, which actually should get you into the playoffs if you think about it. It should. But we've seen
that division, yeah.
We should, and it maybe even could win the division. So I think it's important, looking at their schedule, that they're as dominant as they can be within their division matchups, just in case they share a similar record with Green Bay or the Vikings. You know what I'm saying? To punch their ticket. So Yeah, I think that it's just important that those. I don't think anybody gets a pass this season if they underperform or they underwear their fan base. I don't think everyone should be like, well, the excuse is no, you never should have drafted Mitch that high, you know, and then we can just go from there. So,
there's 10. We have 6 division games. Okay, three or 6 is three and 3 home and away. Okay. And then you have the rest of the other 10 games are obviously non-division. There are a couple of big games in there that if you're serious, you got to win. You got to win. And the majority of those big games are at home. So we're talking about the Saints at home. We're talking about the Texans at home. Okay, we're talking about the Bucks with Tom Brady at home. Okay, we have a couple of games, a couple of those big games that are at home. Okay, we need to. The Bears need to win those, and they need to win those decisively. If you're not coming after Drew Brees because of the comments he said, and that's all the motivation you need. Okay, I know he backpedaled like Deion Sanders, but what you said, what you said, and we feel like that's exactly what you meant. But they have a couple of big games at home. Can you imagine they come out?
That's why Aaron Rodgers got his statement together.
Yeah.
And we talked about it.
Let me tell you something. Hands.
Hold up. Let me tell you something. If you know anything about Green Bay, come on now. If you know anything about the city of Green Bay, I promise you I'm not throwing shade. I'm not. But if you've been to Green Bay, you get the vibe. They're real quick about where you are. But Aaron made sure he put out the right statement.
Yeah. Oh, he knew. Because you could put Green Bay in the right smack dab in old Mississippi, and it'd be fine. It'd be perfect.
Go to a Bears Green Bay game, and you will. I knew 2 people who lived and worked in Green Bay, and they talked about how bad it was. And I was like, and these were non-black people, and they were like, I was floored. I was like, well,
my buddy Kenny, he's been on the show a couple of times. He was a sports agent for a long time, and one of his clients was in Green Bay, and we went up to see him, and he would he told us his crazy stories.
But we digress. So maybe Green Bay's about to have a growth point. Okay.
Oh, wow, look at the time. Wow, we got to go to break. We got to take the last break of the show. So listen, don't go anywhere, folks. Keep it locked right here. More sports conversation right here. Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago.
Quicken Loans presents the Sports Flash, driven by Jeep on 1330 and 95.9 The Zone. The Cubs' Anthony Rizzo used the COVID quarantine to get in shape. He's down 25 pounds from a season ago and expects to head to training camp right around 2:15. The Major League Baseball Players Association have until today to make a counteroffer to the league, which has proposed a 76-game season and 75% prorated salaries. Multiple reports say players have responded last night, adamant that they received full prorated salaries while offering to cut the regular season to 89. ESPN's Jeff Passett on what he's heard.
It's been interesting to watch the evolution of where the players have been and where they've gotten to. I was talking with one player earlier today who was sort of on the fence about this idea of them trying to recoup that full prorated salary. The players have coalesced, and it seems like the union is as strong as it has been in potentially decades.
No monthly payments for 90 days, 0% APR for 84 months. Details at Jeep.com. The Sports Flash is driven by Jeep. Chuck Sanders, 1330, 95.9 The Zone.
We're here to tell you about Boost Mobile's new upgraded network.
That's right. Stronger signal, faster speeds, and more coverage.
So now you can get everything you want faster, like Pitbull's music.
No, the new upgraded network means you can download music faster than ever before. It doesn't mean that it will make Pitbull songs faster.
Oh, so this isn't the song.
No, this is the song.
Well, this is embarrassing.
Step up with Boost Mobile's new upgraded network. Stronger signal, faster speeds, more coverage than before. Switch and get 4 unlimited lines for $25 per line per month and 4 free LG K51 phones. Access to upgraded network requires compatible device. New customers only. 4-line offer requires at least 1 port and activation from eligible carrier. Free phone limited to 1 per line while supplies last. Customers using more than 35 gigabytes of data during billing cycle may be deprioritized during times of congestion. Offers and coverage not available everywhere. Additional terms and restrictions apply. See boostmobile.com or retailer for full details.
Welcome back to Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago. Just got done talking a little bit about the Bears and there are hopes for the season. And just to kind of put a bow on it, and feel free to chime in as well. Ivan, I think you and Maya are both right. You know, we're talking double-digit victories and a deep run into playoffs. If you get to at least the divisional game, fine. If you get to the NFC Championship game, even if you lose and or get blown out, I'm okay with that. Getting to the NFC Championship game is it's a feat, and it definitely will show because if that happens, then either Mitch or Nick have taken his offense to where it needs to be because his defense is ready, and we know that. So if you can get us some points, we can get to the NFC Championship game or a close loss in the divisional game, then I'm cool with it. And I think your head's coming off the chopping block, but you're still on the hot seat.
I agree. That's fair. That's absolutely fair. It's enough to make us say, okay, but the expectation is still there that this team should be doing better. But you showed some forward progress opposed to staying in regression mode. And they've been in regression mode for like 2 seasons, primarily because Mitch and Nagy's inexperience. Green, real talk. So let's see if that 2 years under the belt now can matriculate into something else. But if not, you got Foles as your safety net. And I would never say wrap it up and put it in the bowl because they're not that kind of gift. They're a gift bag kind of team. You know what I mean? Just open that shit up and take it out. Because, a wrapped gift is exciting. You're like, oh, my God. And you're like excited. No.
Because of the time.
I feel like this offseason they made the certain moves that they put them in a position to win now because that's what they're in. They're in win now mode. So going and getting a Robert Quinn, a Nick Foles, you know what I mean? Going in and getting a Fetty to go ahead and plug right into an offensive line that needed another player on it. I think those things set them up. It's just Ryan Pace has set him like we've talked about. He set himself up so he's covering his ass. He's covering his own ass. But if they're able to get to that point, like we were talking about, if they're able to get to the playoffs, able to get to a championship game, then every move that Ryan Pace has made this offseason has put him into that position. Mitch or not, with Mitch or not, it's put him into that position. Maybe not with the Nick Foles just because he might end up being a backup, but I'm pretty sure he's going to end up starting just because there's a question mark there. But I think every move that he's made right now, even with the Jimmy Graham. Shawn, you thought Jimmy Graham was injury prone. Jimmy Graham started, 14 games in the past 6 seasons? That's consistency, that's availability, and that's the best ability.
That's an upgrade. I always pick those players I think are going to have a bigger impact than you think. And Jimmy Graham is one of those people for me. I look at his circumstance of where he's been at the last 2 seasons, like in the Seahawks, a flash there, Green Bay. A lot of stuff. Green Bay was under turmoil when he went there. You know what I'm saying? So that does affect you when you have Aaron Rodgers haggling with the new head coach about what direction they want to go. I wanted the Bears to pick up Jimmy Graham before he went to Green Bay. I felt like, what? He's somebody that could work in this tight end system after Trey Burton absolutely just disappointed everybody with his lack of, play, production, his mindset, just heart, all that. I wanted Jimmy Graham before he went to Green Bay because the thing is the Bears offensive system is not predicated on a tight end, though we know it could be very strongly impacted if they have a tight end that has the tools to be able to do it. Jimmy Graham has got the size. So we know, I think that Nagy's going to, he's going to push that because he's like, where he's nowhere near, a George Kittle or what? What?
You could have said Kelsey.
Yeah.
What was next? That was George Kittle. Travis Kelsey. But with that being said, Jimmy Graham has a respectable enough career that I'm banking there's something still there. I always feel sometimes it's circumstance with players and they go to a new spot and you see a resurgence of where they were. So even when think about it this way, even when Gronkowski was not at the top of his game, he was still an impact player when he was on the field with the Patriots. Now, obviously, Jimmy Graham is not a Gronkowski, but we've seen that tight ends that have a certain size and ability can really be highly productive when used correctly. So I look at Graham being somebody else. You're going to be conscious where he's at in the field. You're not overthinking it, but you're not going to let him just go run amok either.
And I think it really allows for the development of Cole Kmet to take over that spot because now you're not asking Cole Kmet to come in and be the number 1 tight end and be the focal point, or be that Travis Kelsey, George Kittle, any of the other the Zach Ertz type. You're not asking him to do that because you have a guy who's making a hell of a lot more money, who has a bigger rep. Okay, than he does. So he's allowed to grow. He's allowed to make mistakes. The whole weight of the franchise is not placed on his shoulders, And I think it's a good thing for him to be able to have that, have someone else, have the spotlight be on someone else, especially in the tight end position. It'll allow him to grow, learn, make mistakes. And then in a season or two, I think he can come and he can be one of those new wave tight ends that we see across the NFL that we don't have. He could be that dude for us, and I think that's what we're hoping for. And I believe that's what the Bears were hoping for, is being able to get him with Jimmy Graham. I think that was a great set of circumstances for the Bears.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely something that they need to add something more into their offensive arsenal. It's something that they needed to do. So I think it's great that, and it's something that Nagy was used to Kansas City having. He saw the benefit of that position. So it allows him to be really far more proactive in the three phases of the game. When you talk about obviously having a running game, that middle of the field with your tight ends and obviously receivers, it gives them that flexibility they haven't had. Now the question is, do they have a person that can give the special delivery? Do they have the quarterback that can put the ball in the hand? You know what I'm saying? To deliver it. Because that's the issue. Even when the Bears, you look at the past 2 seasons, I never looked at their offense and said, I think they're absolutely inept, that they're awful. I didn't. But it was collectively a punishment because of how poorly or inconsistent that Mitch was.
Yeah, it was.
So Mitch is the to be or not to be. That is the question.
Yep. And ideally, you'd want Mitch to take over that starting job, because if he does, then now all of a sudden his accuracy is better.
Actually, no, I don't.
His athleticism.
I don't want him to take. I don't want him to take. I didn't want him in the first place. I'm more than happy with Nick stepping in and let's just make this happen.
No, I hear you, but here's why if Mitch does end up taking the job, it's not going to be a fluke, because you already have a guy that can run this offense in Nick Foles. So if Mitch is able to beat him out, now you're saying, okay, well, now that just shows that's going to show us, because it showed them the improvement that Mitch had. And let's not forget, Matt Nagy, you just mentioned it about 2 minutes ago. Their ass is on a hot seat, Nagy and Pace. Okay, and they're going to do everything in their power, self-preservation. So if Mitch actually wins the job, then that means Mitch is doing everything that they asked him to do up to this point that he hadn't been able to do. And the thing that I know right now that Mitch is so much better at than Foles is that's using his legs. Okay, but if he's able to add that pure passing quarterback in addition to his athleticism and being able to move the chains on third down with his feet, then you know what, I'll be happy with it. And again, he's not getting that job because I think it's already set in stone. I've said this before. I think it's just a air quotes competition. Okay. And once you get to training camp and Foles is going to start. So I think Mitch is behind the 8 ball, truth be told, because Matt Nagy's tired of trying to deal with it. Matt Nagy's tired of a quarterback who can't read defenses. And if you don't have a quarterback who can read defenses, you can't get into the right play because you can't do it. He knows Nick Foles can. So again, if Mitch Trubisky wins that job, that means Mitch will have taken a huge jump.
Okay, well,
a huge jump.
In an ideal world, it's like a quarterback in the NFL is like the Triple Crown when you've struck gold. Because if you're in a horse racing, you know that a thoroughbred that can literally perform in all those levels, it's about running, on an open dirt track, then it's a grass track, and then it turns into about endurance. That's what you look at for your quarterbacks. To me, here's the thing. Mitch is not a thoroughbred. I don't know what he can do. And it's sad that we're coming into even 2 years under Nagy that we're still questioning his ability, because even in the worst system, there should have been some flashes of, I think he gets it, but he's not consistent. So I'm with you. I mean, I think there's this high expectation that Foles is going to end up taking over the reins, but in order to save face, they have to say, and also because if your coaching staff concedes that Mitch is not the right guy, then pretty much you've already condemned him to death, because he already knows that you're expecting me to fail. You know what I mean? Which should be a motivation for him, but for some people that gets into their psyche and they just can't get past it. But he knows, and bringing Foles here, it's like we're tired of waiting for you to take that step.
Bingo.
So either you do it or you don't. And when you don't take it personal. It's a business and we have to win. So that's just what it comes down to. And all I need for Nagy and Pace to start preparing right now is that statement you have to give to the media about when you decide to go from Mitch, to Nick, why you did it. Start preparing that statement so you don't look like you got caught with your pants down, because it's coming. So be prepared for the statement when it happens. And it's going to be like, why did you draft him? Because we thought at that time that he was going to be the right fit. But we realized all the pieces start moving and it just didn't hit on all cylinders like we wanted it to. But we're trying to win a championship in the city, and it can't be about one person. Call me, Nagy, if you need help with that statement. I can hook you up.
Maya's gonna pause. I can hook you up, but she has a statement right there.
I got you. I told you, I'm leaving a popo for sports. When you're in crisis, call me. I can tell you how to work through these things.
That's the truth. Well, we're gonna switch gears and talk a little Cubs baseball because we've done. I talked a lot. Sorry, Maya. Sorry, I didn't mean to ruin your day. But Theo Epstein came out yesterday and talked about this whole situation, with the state of the country right now, and he vowed to look inward, is what he said, quote unquote, for solutions to MLB's systematic racism. He said, "I certainly plan to continue looking inward and can question my own assumptions, my own attitudes, and my own decision making until I can do better. It's an area where we can certainly overall." The Cubs, they had a black farm director until he was moved to a special assistant role. Now, was that a promotion? I'm not sure. I think it is, but he's the only African American among the top tier executives in the baseball department. So it's good. It's good that he's looking into it, but there's got to be a concerted effort by all teams to.
MLB is going to be interesting because I'm trying to remember the player's name. Either he played for Boston or he played for the Orioles. Who made the comment when Colin Kaepernick took a knee and when they were questioning what black players were going to do in Major League Baseball? I can't remember who this is. It's like at the tip of my tongue. He was saying that, well, to be honest, there's really not that many black people in playing baseball right now. So it's probably like we're not going to do anything, which I found a little disconcerting. Now, it's true that there are fewer African Americans that play baseball as we knew maybe like, let's say 30 or 40 years ago. Has a lot to do with other sports having more opportunity and access, like in basketball and football. Where it's certain sports, like, if you're talking like baseball or gymnastics or hockey, those are specialized sports that often you have to do outside of school. So those organized sports that are in school tend to draw the most. So I got his statement, but that to me said, well, that's disingenuous because that's like saying you still feel there's no opportunity. And we do know that Major League Baseball is it called the RBI program for inner city?
Baseball in the inner city.
Where they're trying to bring in, any inner city more players and teams and organizations to support to kind of regrow that interest with the black community in baseball. So I have to say that it isn't like MLB has been remiss. I mean, they've always celebrated, Jackie Robinson. There's a day for that, so it's not like I think they've been removed from it, but I think it's having to address the issue of, because like, for instance, they're like with the Reds, they want them to change. Is the name of their stadium Marge Schott Stadium? And we know that Marge Schott was a infamous racist. The stuff that she would say, I was like, well, hold up. What?
No, it's the American Ballpark in Cincy.
But there's something that it's something within their ballpark that has her name or something on it. And they want it removed, whatever it is within the ballpark. And I was like, because, there's this thing about, there's a movement that says if something or one of your founders or somebody was racist, that should be removed. People question it like, it's history. You can't change history. But it's interesting because we still deal with, obviously with the Cleveland Indians and, so there's some sensitivity about racism within baseball that goes beyond necessarily just about African Americans. You know what I mean? So the question is, are they prepared to listen and to address it accordingly?
Oh, Maya. So what you're talking about is the University of Cincinnati. Okay. The University of Cincinnati Stadium. It's called Marge Schott Stadium.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't the Great American where they play, but the University of Cincinnati.
If you knew anything about Marge Schott, she was openly racist. There was no, I think you knew by what she said. So it's interesting because I think Major League Baseball has some disparities to address from their people of color. Obviously, black players, Latino players. It's just some things they're going to have to look at, but I think they're going to fly under the radar different than most people. You know what I'm saying? Because they're not exactly the biggest infractions we have ever seen. But, so with the Cubs, now they're under scrutiny because remember last year that email came, was it last year or the year before? Where email was leaked from one of the Ricketts.
It was 2 years ago by the father, the one that owns everything.
Right. Yeah. So we knew at that point, oh, player. So you know what? And the thing was, everybody in the family was like, "Whoa, hold up!" Had to backpedal on it and like say, "That's my dad. He comes from a different era. That's not." And I get it. Just because someone in your family, respectively, is a racist doesn't mean necessarily you are too. But the chances that was sprinkled on you is probably very high. But I know some of the Ricketts like align, like one of the daughters, she's lesbian, she supports, you know what I mean? So they're kind of all over.
Democratic Party, yeah.
And there's one that's staunch Republican, and so I mean they're kind of all over the board. So
yeah, there's a hard split between the
there
siblings.
is with the siblings. But unfortunately for Theo Epstein, he has to now navigate who the Ricketts are. You know what I mean? Even though that had nothing, I mean, to my knowledge, I'd have not known Theo to do anything disparaging as an organization with the Cubs, to be honest. I have not known them to do anything disparaging, so to speak. They've had plenty of notable Black players that we know. You know what I mean?
Players, like managers. So
I don't look at them and I don't say, despite the fact that they're not my team of choice, that I feel they're a racist organization. But if he feels like there's some things that he needs to reflect upon that they can do better, so be it. It's like, I think he had to say something, like, we got to say something, because if we don't say something, then somebody will say we didn't say something.
Yeah, and you got to make a statement. You got to make a statement. You got to get it before everybody else, because if the longer you wait, they're like, well, why'd you? Because it's not only is it bad enough that you don't make a statement, but then if you take a long time, like, wait a minute, why'd you take so long to make a statement?
Right.
You didn't make a statement, now you did, and then that took you so long. What took you so long?
See, and that's the part about this whole thing that feels so disingenuous to me, is like everybody feels like they had to say something because they weren't proactive before this issue. But my thing is, if you were proactive before this issue, his statement could have simply been like this to me. As an organization outside of ownership of the Ricketts, which we know there can be issues there, but that's for them. That's individual. As an organization, we have always embraced this, and this, and we've done this. It doesn't mean that we can't do it better, but we've always been working towards doing things a certain way. And I would have been just fine with that. He doesn't have to. Everybody's like giving a statement out of guilt. And I think that's what bothers me. Like white guilt. Yeah. That's what it is. Stop giving me white guilt statements. You know what? Just
like we can't see through them.
That's the thing. It's like, stop, you just had to say something. You know what I mean? So, that's fine. I don't, when things come up, they tend to address it aggressively. So I don't have an issue with what he said. It is, he had to say something and he said it. I'm going to do better. What are you doing? See, you know what I'd ask? What exactly do you have to reflect upon? What have you done that I don't know about, Theo?
Well, Theo is also the general manager over in Boston. And we all know how Boston is with minority players.
Well, if he was in Boston, his statement would make a lot more sense to me. Nothing against my Bostonians.
I'm just saying maybe he has some type of underlying guilt that he's
he's got some dirty secrets.
Maybe I don't know. It's
because actually we all know how. I mean, I went to school out in Massachusetts, so I remember how the atmosphere and the landscape was over there. But Carl Crawford, if you remember, he said he had a no trade clause that he couldn't be traded to Boston. I want to say it was Carl Crawford.
No, it was Torrey Hunter.
Torrey Hunter. Because Carl Crawford he played for Tampa. But anyway, Torrey Hunter had that because he understood. He knew, first of all, what they had said to him when he's out there playing. And, he's like, I wouldn't want to play for people like this who are calling me the N-word and all kinds of other things. Not even baseball. Like I can say, yeah, your mother's this, your mother's that. Okay, those are, it's not the
trash talk.
Personal. Yeah, it's trash talk. When you start getting into something like that and calling people names and the N-word and stuff like that, then now you're crossing the line. You that's not allowable just because you paid for a ticket. You know what I mean? There's still, like most other stuff that you
do, I think, is what he's saying.
I'm pretty sure he's going
to. He's reflecting on the thought. He's a deep, but no, I'm with it. It shouldn't. No one should have to be subjected to that type of behavior. So kudos to Torrey Hunter. Like, there's a couple places that I know that I don't want to go, in Boston, and unfortunately, Boston has a history of that. I remember when I was looking at Boston as a potential place to work in sports, and I had a very serious conversation about someone even though I think you're more than good enough to do that, I would strongly advise against it.
Yeah.
They said because they're not very accepting, and you could be as knowledgeable as you want to be, but they're only going to see things from a certain perspective. Now, mind you, anytime we talk about stuff like this, it's never about everybody. And that's one thing I think in all these conversations we have to be very clear about. Is this isn't a blanket statement that every black person is a certain way and every white person is a certain way. We're in the process right now trying to sort all that out. Where exactly do you stand in this? You know what I mean? We're trying to sort through those things. So until we sort through these things, this is just where we are. So for MLB, I mean, they do have some issues in different cities to deal with. But I would tell you, I'm less concerned about them, and I'm way more concerned about the NHL because some of their infractions have been ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll get into that on Friday, the NHL and how.
Oh, where's their statement at? Because they got some work to do. Seriously.
Yeah, they do. It's been kind of interesting. Well, Maya, can you believe it? 2 hours has come and gone already. That was quick, fast, and a hurry.
Oh yeah, that did go by fast. Look at that.
Yeah, that went good. But hey guys, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back on Friday.
Friday.
I'm excited. I'm excited. And you know what? I'm excited for the fact we can go back to 5 days a week, 3 hours a day.
Getting there.
Because trust me, within a month and a half, we'll be there because we're going to have all the sports: baseball, basketball, football, hockey, soccer, track, highlight. Everything's going to be going in.
You're like, can you believe 3 hours? Yes, I can. And we didn't probably cover a fraction of what we needed to cover for the day. So yes, absolutely.
Well, listen, guys, make sure you tune in. So for my Puerto Rican Swiss Army knife himself, Ivan Vargas.
See Friday, right? Friday.
And my lovely co-host, Maya Kai.
Au revoir, mon amis. Tout à l'heure.
Guys, I'm your boy, the Superback Shawn Sierra. We'll see you. Same bat time, same bat channel, 9 a.m. to 11 Central Standard Time on Friday. So until then, folks, I got 2 words for you.
Deuces.
We out.